Hi guys, how you doing? These are stabilizer bushes. This is a rubber hose. This is another rubber hose, metal hose. This is a hub. This is a brake pad. These are plugs. Now, there is a phone call I receive quite often from first-time car owners, and usually you can hear fear before they even explain the problem. And they say, Arthur, I think I bought a bad car. So then I ask, what happened? The mechanic says I need an engine mounting, or one shock absorber is leaking, or there is a wheel bearing noise. And suddenly, the owner starts questioning everything. Maybe the seller cheated me, or maybe the inspection was wrong, or maybe I chose the wrong model, or maybe the car is going to drain all my money. But sometimes nothing extraordinary has happened. A component has simply reached the end of its working life. That is something first-time car owners are never prepared for. Before buying a car, people usually know about fuel. They know about engine oil. They know about tires wearing out. They know about brake pads being replaced. Yeah? I mean, they know that these simple things that everyone knows, even a child knows, will be replaced or it will die out. But there are car components in a car, because a car is made of thousands of components. You see, the studio is full of those components. Yeah? This is a piston ring. Did you know it can be this small? It's part of the car. This alone, forget the plugs. This alone. Some components are made of rubber. Some contain bearings. Some carry electric current. Some work every second the engine is running. They do not last forever. And when you buy a used car, those parts do not become new simply because you bought a new car. Those parts don't become new because you're a new owner. They don't. So today, I want us to talk about the parts that often fail. But because they fail when you're not expecting them, as a first-time car owner, they're going to surprise you when they fail. And I don't want to frighten you away from buying a car or from car ownership, but I want to help you understand the difference between normal aging and genuinely problematic cars, or the difference between a normally aging car part and what could turn out to be a problematic car. Welcome to For the Love of Cars. I am Arthur, and I want to remind you that our annual event, the Love for Cars Convention, is happening this September, 5th September 2026, and the ticket will cost you only 30,000 shillings. To reserve your place, call 0760 045 116. For the love of cars, Uganda, we roll. The first part that I want to talk about, and I don't have it on my table here, is the part that does this. You start your car in the morning, yeah? And suddenly there's a vibration. The steering wheel kind of shakes, you feel it. The dashboard vibrates. When you select drive, it gets worse. Immediately, you begin thinking the engine is finished. Sometimes, you start thinking, sometimes the engine is maybe faulty, but most of the time the engine is perfectly healthy. The problem is an engine mounting. You guys know, you see, an engine mounting is a component in the car that has a rubber in the middle, and there will be bolts that go through there, and then they mount to the engine, and then it's a rubber that's supposed to take all the vibration. Now, engine mounting support the engine and transmission while preventing their vibration from entering the cabin. A car normally has 3 or 4 mountings. You have 2 on either side, one for the transmission, one for the engine. We have one in the rear that grabs the same parts, and then one at the front. All of them will contain rubber. Not this rubber, but they'll contain rubber. but some of them contain hydraulic fluid. And after years of heat, the engine has emits heat, movement, and engine weight or gearbox weight, they weaken. And when that happens, a smooth car can suddenly feel very rough. The symptoms feel serious, but the repair may only involve replacing that mounting. Yes, so before you condemn the engine, have the mountings inspected properly. And replacing an engine mount doesn't take a full day. It takes a couple of hours. They come, take it out, probably replace the bush or just buy a fresh mounting and replace it. And mountings for all cars will literally be costing between 80 to 250 depending on what car you're driving. Of course, the Range Rovers, I don't know. But most of our mountings will go number, but if you're replacing only the rubbers, if they are there, then you'll probably spend like 50, 60, 80,000 shillings to replace the rubber. Replace it. Before you start saying, go replace. Go check the mounts, and if you need to replace them, replace them. This shock absorber here, I took it out of one of the cars that we bought. It was a Toyota Noah. Now, can you imagine a Toyota Noah having this shock absorber? It's a Sport. It came out of a Noah SI. You can adjust the height from here. Yeah, you can make it lower or make it longer. It's a very healthy shock absorber. I have four pieces, 2 from the front and 2 from the rear. And when we bought that Noah, I thought I would use these shocks in one of the car. So I did contribute on topping up for the customer for whom we got new shock absorbers and new springs. I have 2 pairs, one for the front, one for the back. Shock absorbers. Why am I even talking too many words? Shock absorbers work every time the car meets a pothole, every time a car meets a hump, a rough road, or an uneven surface. When your car is leaning on one side, this shock absorber is doing more work than this shock absorber. So they do different work. They could control the movement of the suspension and keep the tires in contact with the road. Yeah, eventually, the seals wear. Yeah, they may even begin leaking. You get now, when that happens, the car bounces excessively. It feels unstable. It produces knocking sounds. For a first-time car owner, being told that a shock absorber needs replacement can feel like the entire suspension has broken down. It has not. This is a serviceable component. Okay, it's a replaceable component as well. What matters is replacing it with the correct part and checking the surrounding suspension components at the same time. But sometimes the shock is not working alone. A damaged mounting. Kano. This is a mounting. This is a mounting here. Because the damaged mounting now bush na yobu esalidira na yurika na yeso okutandika okubagana. Or if the spring is broken, it can also make those funny sounds in your car. So for the first time car owners, when they tell you to replace a shock absorber, these things they have recommended times of replacement. And also when it overdoes work, which is why we buy cars from Japan, and these cars have been moving for 5-6 years and they have never replaced shock absorbers. You drive it in Uganda for 6 months and you have to replace one. Probably the guys in government that watch my content, the next time you're legislating or the next time you're budgeting for roads, please remember, you are the reason why we are replacing these things, because the roads are bad. So start suggesting that these things are worked on through you by making sure the roads are smooth. If you can also try and limit the humps and deploy more traffic officers and make them punish the guys that are actually offending us instead of taking the bribes, then maybe, and I mean just maybe, we will take long before replacing these shock absorbers. Suspension bushes. Guys, if you have never known that a car is suspended by a combination of metal and rubber, then you have never seen your car taken apart. Most suspension systems have rubber bushes, to control movement between metal components. This is one of them. A stabilizer bar goes through here, it's locked onto the suspension plate. Yeah, the bagita cross member. Suspension bagita stabilizer bar. Eita muno ne bagikwasa ku cross member. Okwo. Now the stabilizer bar makes sure that your car is actually stable. These are one of the rubbers that help your car stay good. Now the control arm bushes are very important. Stabilizer bushes, trailing arm bushes, and several others that come with whichever car you're driving. If you're driving a rear wheel drive, then they are probably different. All wheel drive, you have more. And now as rubber ages, they lose shape. Now this one, we changed it because now it was amorphous. Yeah. Now when these rubber bushes get worn out or tired, steering may feel less precise. Tires may wear unevenly. Yeah. But one worn out bush does not mean the entire suspension is finished. Sometimes all you have to do is replace these two and your car stops making noise. It means one part designed to absorb movement has worn out. Now, the bigger problem comes when worn out bushes are ignored. Excess movement can affect the tires. It affects alignment, it affects ball joints and other suspension parts. So the replacement of these rubber bushes or the repair of the same, is small today, but the problems it can cause when you don't work on it later, now. For the love of cars, Uganda, the other thing that probably we need to talk about that first-time car owners never think about because nobody ever told them is the wheel bearings. And bearing, this one is the thing that moves the wheel. It's the thing that moves the what? It moves the wheel. Now, no one ever tells you, and it can be very disappointing when they tell you replacing the bearing itself is about 80,000, buying the entire hub is about 200,000, and they tell you, but if you replace the bearing itself, it might actually fail again, and it always fails again. So you need to buy this one of 200,000 or 250,000 shillings. Now, a worn-out wheel bearing can make frightening noise. You begin hearing the hum when you're driving a little bit slowly. Now, it becomes louder when you're going very fast. And then when you start hearing that immediately, you think the gearbox, or a bearing again. The differential, you start thinking about different food day. You start thinking about gear. But sometimes the noise is just from this one. Not even, because cars have normally 4 wheel bearings, because the wheels need to move. And if the wheels need to move, they have bearings here. Bearing enemu ezemabega zigwawo okufa ezo maso zizifa kuba zo ziweta n'okuweta ne zikola ki. Now, if the noise is coming from one wheel bearing, you need to understand that the bearing supports the weight while allowing the wheels to move. It allows the wheel to rotate smoothly. Kati chintu ekimu ky'olina okumanya kiri nti they deal with potholes, we walk by pothole, they deal with the heat, they deal with water, cornering forces, and thousands of kilometers. Katinganze at hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Eventually, they can wear out, bearing a far. The important thing is proper diagnosis, because tire noise and drive terrain problems can sometimes sound similar. But once the fault is confirmed, replacing this bearing here does not mean the car was a bad purchase. I've seen it in my own cars. You put a hub and all of a sudden the car is as good as new. It means I had one working component, reached the end of its service life. Hub that bazikola mitwala 3 kilometer. Era senga bearing y'omu hub ene efa ku kilometer 12 bitambudde. So I would not say the car is bad simply because the wheel bearing is dead. Now, the other thing that we probably ignore kwa mama, CV joints zanga ziri mu girisi mungi sagala mukwatamu. CV joints and drive shaft boots. We talked about that. We have a video on that. And in that video we talked about it. Kabarageka sample ka video yako. Now, you turn the steering and you start hearing the sound. You see video inti ebera ku drive shaft ogitegedde yebere ne yingira mu hub wano. Now, CV joints transfer power to the wheels while allowing the steering to corner and move. They are protected by rubber boots filled with grease. Let me just show you. I can't not show you. I am here already. This is it. They are protected by this rubber boot. And as you can see, it corners, yeah? Now, when the rubber boot wears, the grease escapes, dust and water enters. You remember? Sometimes you only need to replace this damaged rubber boot. But if water and dust already entered, then it will start The complete CV joint and drive shaft may require replacement like we talked about last time. This is why checking the boots during routine service is important. Rubber boot a small torn boot can become a complete drive plus a drive shaft replacement if not careful. Kano kayuri kakatondo kati katengo replacing ako kino ngari a replacing kire kiramba asinga. Now the ignition coils. I don't have ignition coils. How don't I have ignition coils here? Ignition coils. You guys understand the technology of cars. We started with distributors, then we went to the outside coils, and then we went to the inside coils. The distributor was old technology. They made it better by bringing normal coils in ezeweru. Then later on, they brought the coils in ezomu naga coil yenyini yekwata pulaga. Before the coils were outside, they bring the power to the wires, coil wires, and then the wires nezigenda nezikwata muki nezikwata mu pulaga nitukolera awo. Kati the coils that you guys have, they are the coils, and then they give the power directly to the plugs. So now, ignition coils can make a very healthy petrol engine behave as if it is seriously damaged. They begin shaking, the engine begins shaking. The power reduces, fuel consumption increases. The check engine light may even come on, and the owner immediately assumes the engine has failed. But on many modern petrol engines, each cylinder has its own ignition coil. In the beginning, it was a distributor, gives ignition to all the 4 cylinders, one distributor. Now they created 2 coils giving power. Each coil would give power to 2 cylinders. Now in the modern engines, each cylinder has its own ignition coil. If one coil fails, that cylinder may stop firing correctly. Now that what also happens is that the entire engine starts feeling rough. Ignition coils operate under heat and electrical stress for years. Eventually one might fail. That does not automatically mean that the engine is bad, but it must be diagnosed properly because similar symptoms can also come from spark plugs, injectors, nozzles, compression problems, wiring faults, or before replacing parts, talk about guesswork. Test, diagnose, and then treat the problem. Don't treat the symptoms, treat the problem. Now, the cooling system. You know the cooling system. You know what makes the cooling system? First of all, we have a radiator. Behind me here, I have a radiator with a fan. And that's part of the system. We have sensors, temperature sensors. What we have hoses. These the pipe and we have we will have thermostat. Yeah, we have a thermostat. Now the cooling system components can fail. We have water pumps, we have thermostat, we have radiator caps, akasanikiraka radiator, kunotekariko. We have cooling fans, we have some plastic fittings as well, yeah, and sometimes the radiator itself. Now a leaking water pump does not mean that the engine is failing, because water pump webe nefesoka nekola kelele nga munyu nemani tandika n'okutonya n'etonya otandika kulaba nga amazzi gakenera naye nga water pump ekola ki etonya. But ignoring that water pump is leaking, that can finish your engine, and that is the danger. A small cooling leak may look harmless at first because gatonya nenzi zao, but then the coolant level will drop, the engine will overheat, and now instead of replacing a water pump, you may be dealing with a damaged cylinder head or head gasket. Yeah, and the cooling system failures are often manageable, very, when discovered early, but they should never be postponed. Let me give you an experience I had. I inspected the car for a lady. She drove it for 2 days, and you know, when we inspected the car, because it was the cheapest, when we inspected the car, we realized that the fans were not working very well, and we did explain that the fans were going very slow. Now, we did tell the lady that after you buy this car, when you go for service, get someone to fix the fan speeds. If you don't, the car will overheat. And indeed, 2 days later, she called me and said the car stopped in the road. I guessed it could be the fan. So I drove. Because I had inspected the car, I did a courtesy drive. I expected my fuel to be reimbursed. So I drive and go see this car, and indeed the fan was the problem. Now, the problem was that the relay wasn't working properly. But because it was a rare car, I told her, you need to come to town. We can't make this repair here. You need to come to town. We tried to source the part, and she refused. So when we realized that the relay wasn't working perfectly, we tell her, you need to bring the car to town. We want to source for the right part, but back and forth, rare cars have that problem. And that's why normally when I tell you don't buy this car, it's problematic. It's not really that it's problematic, but find specific parts will be hard. So anyway, it would sometimes take the fan off. Sometimes it would make it go slow. And that's why it had stopped. But she refused. She did not refund my fuel also. So I left. And she drove the car for a week with no problem. Then I think 2 weeks later, she sends me a video on WhatsApp. The car had overheated on the road. And the first question was, did you eventually work on that problem in the cooling system that I told you about? And she said, well, I took the car for service, they changed the oil. And then in my head, I was like, what about the problem I told you about? You get. So don't ignore small cooling system problems, like a fan that goes slow, like a fan that goes off eventually, that goes off and then comes back on. That's a problem that can cost you a full engine. Even cars from the board can die or can fail. Like some of you guys want to say, can fail from a bad cooling system or a bad cooling system component. For the people that don't know what video we are doing, someone has told me that you guys forget what the video is about. The video is about parts that surprise every first-time car owner when they are told they need replacement or service. Alternators, starters, battery. Battery. Now, this battery here provides the power for most of those things in your car. But this battery here is charged by the alternator. Now, when the alternator dies, the battery doesn't charge. The starter, self-starter. The thing that makes that sound is the self-starter trying to push the crankshaft. Now, when it pushes the crankshaft enough and the crankshaft picks up, so it cranks. Now, when the self-starter starts failing, then your car one morning, you will turn the key and nothing will happen. Or the battery light will appear. Or the alternator. And it feels like the car has suddenly died. But the problem may be one of those three ordinary components. The battery and the alternator. The starter is something else. Now, the battery, olumu echarginga nejjula neekola olala tejjula, olumu egaanira ddala okujjula, olumu neegaana okuba n'omuliro nga kweguli nga teguyisaamu wano because ebisenge biba bikoze eki biba bifudde. Now the alternator works every time the engine is running because it runs together with the crankshaft, but eventually you need to understand that the brushes will die, the bearings will die, the solenoids will die, and you guys don't like the word die, but I'll keep using the word die. If I die, I die. If you die, you die. Now, the internal electrical components as well can wear. Yeah? A faulty alternator can keep killing batteries. If you don't know that, katigo sigalo gula battery nenga alternator if I remembered. Origa yesigalanga gula battery. And also probably the other thing that you also need to understand is that loose terminals or poor grounding, I think we will be still a choose voltage. a battery condition. Osegira. And the starter should also be tested before replacing. And also, you guys, some of you guys have a lot of money. The mechanic tells you we buy the alternator. Alternator ngayitaga mu brush bwa mitwalo musanvu. Naguza alternator ya mitwalo asatu. Ninga waliguze bu brush ne buterera. So guys, I know this is your first car. But makanika kyakugamba tokola bukozi. Buli bwakugamba tukole kino komawola bibidi. You guys understand that modern cars depend on sensors. A sensor to test the temperature of the water, a sensor to test the temperature of the gearbox, a sensor you get to test the speed, a sensor to test pressure, a sensors to test everything. Now, some of the sensors that you guys already know, the wheel speed sensors, the oxygen sensors, the airflow sensors, crankshaft sensors, camshaft sensors, temperature sensors, yeah, and many others. Now, sometimes one failed sensor can switch on several warning lights, I am telling you. ABS comes with traction control. It comes with check engine. The dashboard suddenly looks like a Christmas tree. And the owner assumes several things have failed. And sometimes when I'm inspecting a car, I can leave a very good car simply because of those lights. Because someone is going to buy their car, 50 million, and then you tell them to get them garage, it's okay to kebede bino. Okisegera, yo muntu bagule moroka yagale moroka ntalina cha avuga genda kola pozi service na kweyongerayo. You get it? So when lights come, the owner starts thinking engine food na gearbox in this minor chip. But the vehicle's computer shares information. One bad signal can affect multiple systems. It's like how if you have what is that? If you have an ear blockage, for example, you lose balance. Warning lights should not be ignored, but warning lights should never make you panic. They are just telling you, come and diagnose this. That's why when sometimes someone calls me and they say, Arthur, the first thing I'll ask, which katara? And then I'll ask, is the car doing anything extraordinary? If the car is not misbehaving, you have the audacity to drive from where you are to the nearest diagnosis point. So, a warning light is not permission for you to start replacing random parts. A warning light is an invitation to diagnose. Don't forget that. Now, the other things, I have one brake pad here. This is from the rear wheels. I don't know for which car this is, but brake components can surprise first-time car owners. You'll be surprised what first-time car owners complain about. There's a time we bought a car from the bone. We needed to replace the brakes, and the guy chose the cheap version. You get it? So most people expect brake pads to wear, but they are surprised when told about brake discs or brake drums or calipers or wheel cylinders or brake hoses or brake fluid. Yeah, you guys remember when we had possible VIP I don't want to now disc, but the brake discs gradually become thinner. Brakes will zita ku disc. You get net drums. Zino drum will see, but when you brake, it will come and cap the drum like this. So the more you do that, the drums will actually become thin. The same thing happens with the discs, and that happens. Caliper slide pins will also seize eventually. The rubber seals can deteriorate. Brake fluid absorbs moisture and requires replacement. So sometimes you need to understand that parts wear because braking depends on heat and friction. Heat and friction. So replacing brake components after buying a used car does not necessarily mean that you got a bad car. It may simply mean that the car has reached the next service break interval. Brake problems should never be postponed. Togezaako kuba brake ye motoka. The car can continue moving with many faults, but it must also stop. Emotoka givuga engeri kyobola abasajja aba golf ne Benz kuba emotoka zaabwe tezitambula nnyo brake teziggwako. Emotoka ebeera nnyo ewaka mu kikomera mu garagi kati brake teziggwako nebeera n'obutaala 100 era bw'asiba esiba. So the next time your mechanic tells you to replace a part of the brake components, as a first time car owner, don't start calling everyone. Brake za meka, brake ennungi zibeera wa. You need to trust your mechanics once in a while. So now, obviously, the question from your mind is, Arthur Otugamba, they surprise first-time car owners. But how do you know whether it's normal way? First-time car owner. Now, if you have not shared this video, you need to send this link to your friend who is buying a car next week or next month, because first-time car owners give themselves a headache for nothing. Now, this is where first-time car owners need to be careful. One component failing after years of use is normal. The same component failing repeatedly, that's where the problem is. When you're changing plugs every other week. Plugs, there's a problem. You get one wheel bearing becoming noisy at high mileage is ordinary wear. Replacing the same wheel bearing every 3 months means something else somewhere else is wrong. One ignition coil may be understandable. Several new ignition coils replaced in the same place. It may be poor quality parts. Electrical problems, they come. But if something skips dying, it can be a problem with diagnosis. A shock absorber that leaks after years or after months, because some of us will do high mileages, is expected. But a new shock failing immediately after, that's mechanical kubba. Incorrect installation also can happen, especially with hubs. Yeah? Gwe, oyina okumanya nti omuntu bw'ateekamu paati bubi, emmoloka egenda kuddamu efe. Normal wear usually follows age and mileage. Repeated failure demands investigation. So guys, what should actually worry you? And there are things that should worry you as a first-time car owner. Because not every fault should be dismissed as a normal maintenance alert. You should take this matter seriously when your car has repeated overheating, it has heavy engine knocks, it has low oil pressure, it has serious transmission slipping, it has structural accident damage, it has rust in so many places. Yeah, reoccurring electrical faults nobody can explain, or the same component failing again and again. Those problems can point to something deeper. The purpose of this discussion today is not to normalize bad cars. The purpose of this video is to stop owners from condemning a good car because one replaceable component has gotten worn out. Now, if you're going to buy your first car, don't forget I do inspection. and do not ask if anything will ever need replacement, because things will need replacement. Yeah? Instead, you should be asking, can I find that part? Can I afford the repair? Can I find a competent mechanic? And can the fault be diagnosed correctly? That is what makes a car manageable. If you buy a 10-year-old car, you have not brought a brand new machine. You have not got a new engine. You have not gotten a new suspension. Electrical system, the cooling system has been working for long, and thousands of parts, yeah, have all aged, but differently. Some will serve you many more years, but others will need replacement immediately or sooner than you expect. That does not automatically mean that you bought a bad car. Sometimes you simply bought a used car and one component has reached the end of its life. Replace it correctly. Replace the correct quality. investigate why it failed, continue maintaining the vehicle, and learn the difference between normal aging and a car that is generally becoming unreliable. Once you understand the difference, car ownership becomes far less frightening. I need you to understand. I'd like to remind you that 5th September is going to be the Love for Cars convention. I'd like to see you. We are going to learn a lot more things. Together, we will network and we will have fun on that day. Until next time, ciao.